All right, go ahead, Steve.
Hi, Kristina Williams. This is Steve Jewin from MMA Mania. How are you today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm excellent. And you've got an excellent fight coming up here at Bellator 195, WinStar World Casino and Resort in Thackerville, Oklahoma. But to rewind and to give everybody a little idea, I want to know where you burst onto the scene from, because the first time I saw you, you made a complete mess of Heather Hardy's face. So obviously you had been putting in some work before that point.
Yeah, I've had like 8 Muay Thai fights and then 3 MMA fights that were amateur, but that one was my first pro fight.
So you definitely had the kickboxing skills in effect, and you showed that, and you caught her by surprise, and you caught a lot of us by surprise too. So how satisfying was it to get that big win in your pro MMA debut?
Oh, I mean, that was crazy. That was so surreal. I didn't expect it to come out like that, especially against her. It just the game plan worked perfectly, and all the kicks, and like it was amazing to come out like that.
Had you ever finished somebody like that before in a Muay Thai or amateur fight? Had you ever done that amount of damage to somebody?
I definitely haven't done that amount of damage before. I've had like a couple retire in like my Muay Thai fights in like second round, but I've never done that much damage for sure.
Did it shock you at all seeing that much blood, or was it just like, that's what I signed up for?
I mean, I was there to fight, but I was wondering when they were going to stop it after the second round. It was pretty bad. I kind of felt bad when keeping going, but I was wondering when.
So were a lot of people. So, did you get a chance to catch Heather Hardy's last fight last week, and did you think she had improved at all since you fought her the last time?
I actually didn't see it, but I've heard like a lot of people tell me about it. I guess she was trying to grapple more this fight, so I didn't really see it, so I'm not sure. But I guess they were both grappling, and I expected like both of them to come out like and box it out. So I guess they wanted to try to like have another side of their game out there.
I think a lot of people, including me, thought that too. We thought boxer versus boxer, they were going to stand and strike, but that's not what they gave us, not at all. So I guess that's a natural question then to ask you is, with your MMA training and your kickboxing background, so far we've seen you kickbox, but what do you like as a grappler?
I think I'm a pretty good grappler. I definitely don't love it as much as I love kickboxing, but it's something that I have been working on for a long time, so I'm definitely able to hold my own on the ground.
Who's the team that trains you to be fully well-rounded in all those different aspects of MMA?
I train at American Elite MMA. TJ Tomlin is the head jiu-jitsu coach, and then my head striking coach is Mike Giroux.
What made you first want to jump over from kickboxing to MMA? Did you just see the bright lights and think, hey, I can do this too, I'm already good in one other sport?
I mean, originally I wanted to do like Muay Thai and kickboxing fights, but my coaches they know I have a ground game too, and so they want to see how I do in MMA. And they were like, just try it, and they think I would like it. So, I tried it, and I really loved it, so I kept doing it.
It obviously worked out well. When did you end up getting with Bellator? When did they see your amateur fights and decide, hey, let's bring her in?
That was like 3 months, probably last summer, before my last fight.
What was that experience like, meeting with Scott Coker, Rich Chow, signing on the dotted line? How did that all feel to you?
It kind of felt unreal. I couldn't believe that all that was happening. Especially, I didn't expect to get a fight like that right after coming off my amateur career at all. So it was very surreal.
Mm-hmm. Was that all in any way intimidating then, knowing that Heather Hardy had this big reputation as a boxer? Were you at all worried about that?
It was kind of intimidating at first, but I didn't do a lot of attention or anything, and I was just there to prove myself. So, when I got in there, I was ready to fight, and I was very calm.
Yeah, well, you sure looked it. You were calm, measured, and precise, and that kicking technique is really something. Has anybody ever measured the velocity of your kicks or how hard they land?
No, actually, I've never done that before.
Well, I suspect that might be something you hear Mauro Ranallo or Mike Goldberg talking about on commentary when you watch a replay.
Yeah.
With your career right now, with your MMA record being 1-0, what do you think is the future for you in Bellator? I mean, are you going for the title? Or are you just looking for another fight? What are your plans?
Right now, I'm just looking for this next fight and seeing where it goes. And I think this fight's going to tell me a lot about where I can go. So definitely, I think after this fight, I'll know a lot more.
That's true. And you're getting a much more experienced opponent this time. You're getting somebody with 9 total fights in Emily Decotis. So what do you think of her record?
I think she has a lot of experience in a lot of fights. And so she's definitely the more experienced fighter. And I think her game is very well-rounded compared to my last fighter. So it's definitely going to be a tougher fight.
What about her 2 fights with Lima Lay McFarland? So far, they're the only fights she's lost in Bellator. Have you watched either of those?
I did watch the last one.
Pick up any?
And I mean,
go ahead.
I thought they were. I saw the last one and I thought it was really good. I think Lima Lay kind of controlled the fight, but like Emily, like her striking and her grappling, I think was really good. It was pretty. I was going the whole time.
Yeah, it was back and forth right up to the 5th round when she finally got caught in that submission. So, do you think anything in that fight would be like tips or tricks you could use for your fight with Ducote?
I think that I'm not sure if that will be kind of like what's going to happen in my fight, but I definitely can see some different things to think about from that fight.
Now, in your amateur fights, how did they finish? Did they all go to decision? Did you get knockouts or submissions? How did they go?
I think 3 or 4 of my Muay Thai fights were people retired after the 2nd round, and then I did 1 TKO in my first MMA fight, and then the other 2 were decisions.
Right, so you haven't gotten a submission yet in an MMA fight, but I'm sure there's one that you really like that you do in training that you'd love to put on somebody. Yeah,
for sure.
No spoilers, though? You're not going to tell us which one it is?
Oh, I'd give it away, yeah.
So we just got to watch the fight on Friday night and see if you can get it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what submissions do you like seeing other fighters get? Is there anything that you've seen that you've been like, wow, that's something I've got to try myself?
I mean, there's a lot of really good triangles. I like triangles a lot, but yeah, I mean, I watch fights a lot of times more for striking. So when I'm watching them, I'll be more excited about striking than submission. But for sure, there are some that are awesome.
Well, if you like triangles, Brian Ortega is definitely a fighter to watch. T-City. It's amazing how many people fall into that trap. You'd think at some point you'd be like, don't put your head there. He's going to wrap your legs around it and choke you out. But everybody falls for it.
Crazy.
Right. So what do you like to do when you're not competing or training? What's the life like outside of the cage?
Usually when I'm not training or competing, I'm working with my horses, or that's what I do. Spend most of my time doing, giving riding lessons and working horses. And other than that, just spending time with my friends, and I have a couple dogs, and I spend a lot of time with them. So that's kind of how I relax and I go.
Very cool. Did you grow up around horses then? Has this been a lifelong thing?
Oh yeah, I've had horses since I was 4, so I've worked with them my whole life.
I think the last time I rode a horse, I was 4.
Yeah.
I kind of look at horses the way I do certain fighters. Like, man, they're so big and powerful. You just don't know what they're going to do at any time. But I'm an experienced rider.
They hurt worse than punches.
I bet, yeah. My sister once got kicked by a horse, and she never wanted to do that again.
It's not fun.
No. All right. But we're looking forward to you having fun in the Bellator cage next Friday. So if you'd like at this time, you can make some mentions of teammates and sponsors and social media links. Shout out anything that you'd like.
Yeah, I would just like to thank my sponsors, TKO Combat Sports and Sports Plus Arkansas, Vintage Warriors, JBT Eastline, and Trigger KO, and then my team at American Elite and my coaches there. And then you can find me on Facebook at Kristina Warhorse Williams and Instagram at Warhorse MMA.
Well, I guess that nickname makes perfect sense now that I know your equine background is there. So Warhorse was just natural for you, right?
Yeah, for sure.
That's a perfect fit. So everybody be sure to watch the Warhorse Kristina Williams. And if you pick up the victory next Friday, what do you plan to do to celebrate?
I'll probably just hang out with some friends and get something good to eat and, have a good night.
All right. Well, we hope it is a good night for you. Kristina, thank you so much for the time today. I appreciate it, and I want you to do really well at Bellator 195 in Thackerville. Have a great night there.
You too. Thank you.
You bet. And thank you, Dan, as well.
Thank you, Steve.